Hey, Timmy, can you copy?
Yes, I hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and
Perfect.
clear. And we are now joined by Timmy Hill in advance of this week's Daytona 500. If you do have a question for Timmy, go ahead and raise your hand in the participants queue. We'll call on as many folks as we can during the following half hour. Our first question is going to come from Claire B. Lang. Go ahead with your question, Claire.
Thank you. I want to ask you about qualifying. How do you look at qualifying for the Daytona 500?
So looking forward towards qualifying, we feel like our car is much better than last year. We found ourselves, I believe we were the fourth spot. So we would like to be better than that this year. But being last year top four spots, we had that luxury of having an option to fall back on speed if one of the first two cars did race their way in. Ultimately, this year there's another car, tougher cars, and if we can do something similar, even if we don't get one of the top two spots, if we can go into it and get one of those top four spots to have that option for a qualifying spot going into the duels, that'd be a nice relief. I think it ultimately probably won't matter. I think it's going to come down to racing our way in through the duels. So I do feel better about our car going into this year. I feel like we've made some good improvements, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it has to show for itself.
So that's not a pressure event, even though, you really need to get into the Daytona 500. I mean, it's interesting when we go through qualifying to get the story of folks such as yourself.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's one of those situations for us where we're a smaller team. We don't have near the resources a lot of these other teams have. So we spent zero time in the wind tunnel. We spent zero times on some of these shaker rigs and 7-post rigs. So there's a lot of things that we know that we're going to lack. These other teams have the luxury of having, and that typically shows up during qualifying. We're going to do our best. Like I said, we've made some solid improvements with our race car. It's kind of a stretch for us to expect we can get one of those top two spots, but I think we've done a lot with our car. Hopefully we get one of the top four, but no, it's a non-stressful day for us. We'll be very pleased to see the speed of our race car, but I feel confident, and the guys do as well, as far as what our car can do in race trim and in the draft. That's for us. That's what we get more excited about.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Our next question is going to come from Mark Garrow. Go ahead with the question, Mark.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks, Timmy, for joining us this afternoon. I just wanted your thoughts on the return of the Pro Invitational Series, and are you going to be part of that? And if so, are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm glad that the Pro Invitational was taken well by the fans. I'm glad that it provided an entertainment to fill a void during the time that we weren't racing. And I'm excited that it's coming back. It's a role that will take place during the same time slot as a lot of practices and qualifying that we normally see in NASCAR, but we won't have this year because of some of the safety regulations. But with that being said, it provides an opportunity for guys like myself and some other smaller guys that may not necessarily get spotlight, but in this situation, if all the cars are the same and everybody can have equal footing, it gives an opportunity for people like myself to really shine. So with that being said, I was on a call the other day where NASCAR is expecting to have all the full-time Cup Series drivers involved, and we do plan to continue that full-time role this year. So I haven't officially got an invitation for it, but we do plan to run full-time in Cup this year. So I expect to be in there, and when we do, I'm looking forward to putting on a good show and maybe picking up where we left off.
Now, given the success you've had with this, and you, of course, won the race last year, I believe it was at Texas during the E-Racing Series, was that able to translate into anything for you when it came to the real deal as far as sponsorship or anything like that?
Yes, it did. All across the board, really. It, for one, even though the iRacing thing is virtual and our crew guys aren't hands-on with this race car, they felt just as involved with the virtual car and felt just as a part of that. So that was one thing. As far as our sponsorship goes, our sponsors were extremely excited about the opportunity and the extra exposure that they got from that. And ultimately, they signed on for more races last year, and that was all thanks to iRacing. And going forward, it only propelled, what people viewed us. They didn't really know who I am for a lot of these fans, and I'm glad it put me in front of those people, and it gave them an opportunity to really learn who I am. So that was also very nice.
My final question in regards to that, I mean, what did it feel like to, at least for those few weeks, be looked at as the favorite and on at least equal footing or maybe more so than some of the top names in the sport?
Yeah, it felt good. It felt like, some of my younger days when we won a lot of these races. I was so used to growing up. I won so many races and go-karts and legend cars and the Allison Legacy cars. So, it's been, part of me, kind of misses that, on most of these NASCAR weekends. It's just unfortunate that these cars cost so much money, and sometimes that cost us in overall performance. So to kind of get back to that feeling where people understand or know that I'm one of the favorites going into it, it's a really good feeling. I have that passion where I think I can do this on a regular basis on the real cars as well, if given the right opportunity. So it felt good. I'd love to have more of that feeling more often.
Thank you so much. Good luck on the season.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Our next question is going to come from Zach Albert. Go ahead with the question, Zach.
Thanks, Matt. And thanks for joining us, Timmy. I was wondering if you could reflect a little bit on Speed Weeks last year. You raced your way into the 500, and then just a couple days later, third place and, grabbing a top 5 in the Xfinity Series. What were those, having those couple of days, pretty much together like, and did it kind of set a tone for what was to come?
Yeah, it was, I'll tell you what, it was an incredible weekend. And those who are near and dear to me understand that. My wife, and my dad, and my brother, they were all down there, and it was great to have my family along with my friends there to experience that with me. But it was a incredible high. I remember my wife; she was a second grade school teacher last year, and she had to work on Thursday, the day of the duel, and she came home, and I know I got to talk with her as soon as I got out of the car when I made the race, and she was ecstatic and couldn't wait to be there. But that I felt like, yes, definitely. We went down there. I had many interviews where people asked what my chances were making that race. And I told people then, and just like I feel right now, is we're bringing down really good race cars for speedways. This race car that we prepared this year is even better than the one we had last year. It's these guys on their speedway program, they really go all out to spend the money that they need to spend to prepare a good car. So going forward, to the Xfinity race, it was just as good of a race car as our Cup car. It was a car that could run top 5, have a shot for an outside chance for a win. And to have that confidence after the duel of making the 500, it was kind of like, whatever happens, happens. So we took a good car, ran a good race, and finished third in the Xfinity race. And overall, it's just a really great weekend.
And to follow up a little bit on the iRacing thing, no changes to your setup. I know a lot of people focused on the setup that you have with the wheel or anything. Pretty much same status quo in terms of what your setup is.
It is. Yeah, I haven't changed. I've gotten a lot of offers to change. And I tell you, I just like what I have. It's easy and it's convenient because it's, for me, I don't have this a ton of space to start off with. I can't just drop a big rig in my house. I just don't have that space. And what's nice is I can do a lot of my paperwork that I do for our race teams. And once I get done with that, I just slide my monitor over to the left, and I can do some practice laps or even some racing. So no changes. I really enjoy the setup that I have, which isn't much, but it's a lot for me.
Gotcha. Thanks so much.
Our next question will come from Marty Sakala. Go ahead with the question, Marty.
Thanks, Matt. Hey, Timmy. Hope you're doing well. Mark and Zach kind of took my questions, but I'll follow up on it with the iRacing topic. How did it help the MBM Motorsports brand as a whole when you got that iRacing win?
I think, like you said, during this iRacing experience, I felt like our entire team was really involved in it. They felt like they worked on it, and we're in part of it. And so when we did win that race, it was an excitement all around, from me to the car owner, Carl Long, to just our main mechanics. So it was fun because once we came back to Texas in real life, the guys, they all wanted to take pictures in victory lane as if they won the race as well. So it was neat that Eddie Gossage gave us that cowboy hat so we can celebrate, Texas style. So ultimately, it was a lot of fun. It was a great booster for for everybody involved. It was a great highlight for them.
Did he give you the chance to fire off some 6-shooters too, or no, not that time?
No, I didn't get that luxury, but that'd have been neat.
Final thing for me, obviously iRacing matching up with NASCAR's schedule now, starting with Daytona tonight. How much similar is it to the racing at Daytona in real life?
Yeah, it's hectic on iRacing because these guys, there's no real risk. And I tell you what, they run close, they run hard, and they're not afraid of wrecking. So the racing's really good, and there's no fear there.
Awesome. Thanks, Timmy. Have a great Speed Weeks, man.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Our next question will come from Stephen Toronto. Go ahead with the question, Stephen.
Timmy, traditionally Daytona 500 qualifying was on a Sunday, and then you would have a couple of days to prepare before the duels on Thursday. Now qualifying is going to be on Wednesday night prime time, and then there's a really short turnaround before the 150s on Thursday night. If anything, how does that short turnaround change your preparation for the duels on Thursday, especially given that you're going to have to qualify your way into the race, whether on speed or through the duels as an open peak?
Yeah, I remember last year we qualified on Sunday, and I think most drivers, they kind of stick around, they go to the beach, really relax and maybe soak it all in. But I remember last year I didn't fly, I drove. So I drove all the way back home that evening, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I went back to work because I had to get my truck done for Vegas, which was the following week. There was no time to wait there. And I worked basically three 12-hour days. And then I drove all the way back down to Daytona on Thursday to run the duels, and we're back to it. So this year it's a little different because we don't have to go back and forth. Everything's was kind of stacked up. So like today, I was doing the same routine as last year. I'm on my lunch break right now at the shop, but we're pretty far ahead. We got a road course truck done, working on our Vegas truck now. So we're 3 races ahead. So it's good to feel like we're that far ahead. But for me, my preparation is just it just never stops working. So I don't have time to relax. I just kind of keep moving along.
And in time trials last year, you ran a 48.2, I believe. This year, you mentioned that there's a bit of a deeper field. Conditions are also a little different with qualifying being at night. Do you have a benchmark of what time you think will be able to get you guys into the race on?
No, it's hard to say. It's the biggest thing is challenging this year is the fact that we are qualifying in the evening, 7:30 at night. So the track is going to be quite a bit cooler than what we were normally accustomed to. So with that being said, it's hard to say. It's going to be a challenge. I was talking with somebody else about and my guys as well about trying to find the edge or the limit as far as the limited practice we got. Trying to figure out how much travel our cars will have in qualifying, make sure that we don't foul ourselves up because it's going to pick up speed in the evening. It could drag, and ultimately we're going to try to put the best lap down as possible. But a couple things is we don't want to drag, but as far as times, no, I'm not really sure. We're just going to kind of wing it.
Thanks, Timmy. Good luck this week.
Absolutely, thank you.
Our next question will come from Tucker White. Go ahead with the question, Tucker.
Timmy, as we've seen over the last few seasons, especially the last season, the driver who performs the best over the course of the season doesn't necessarily make the championship round of the playoffs or even win the title. And given how much luck factors into who makes the championship round of the playoffs or even the champion wins the title, how are the playoffs a good method of deciding a champion, especially when leagues like IndyCar and Formula One decide theirs via season-long points format?
Yeah, it's funny, you mentioned luck and as far as, who's the best talent trying to crown a champion, as far as the way I always view this is you make your own luck. It's some people say, I had bad luck and that's why I didn't win the championship or that's why I got eliminated from these rounds. But, this is a format that everybody knows going into it, and you have to put your best foot forth. It may be different from some other racing leagues, but I don't have a problem with it. And I think the champions probably don't have any problems with it. Typically, people who have problems with it are the ones that lose. So with that being said, I think you make your own luck. This is racing, and ultimately, we are crowning the winner.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
Our next question will come from Bobby C. with Bronx Net TV. Go ahead with the question, Bobby.
Thank you, Matt. Two-part question for you, Timmy. I believe that race experience is always very valuable. What has been the biggest thing that you've learned from a busy 2020 and actively racing in the 3 national series? And then does this perhaps make you less of an underdog in the Daytona 500?
Yeah, absolutely. Last year I ran 75 races between Cup, Xfinity, and trucks. And I tell you what, it was exhausting, but it was rewarding. I'm glad I did it because I learned so much. I mean, there are some races that were just pretty doggone difficult to be a part of, and some were really good races. I've had all the above. So with that being said, experience is something that you can't take for granted. It's something that it definitely helps you, especially in this sport, driving. You can't speak on how much that helps you. So with that being said, going into this Daytona 500, a lot of my competition that is attempting this race is either their first or they have very limited time in a Cup car, and they may be in better stuff that's newer and more up to date than the car I'm bringing down there to drive. But one thing they don't have is experience that I have, and I do take a lot of value in that, and I do count that as far as not considering us an underdog. When we're going down there, we're not going down there just to participate and hold our fingers and cross them and hope that we can make this race. We're going down there to make the race. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Our next question will come from Mark Garrow. Go ahead with the question, Mark.
Like a bad penny, I'm back. Timmy, what's it going to be like for open teams this year? The last year or two, if you're an open team, there was always a slot, it seemed like, for you. Now, if the Daytona 500 is any indication, some of the other indications that we're getting for other races down the road, how difficult is life going to be now as an open team?
It's going to be a much more difficult year this year than years past. Yes, there is a lot more cars showing up to Daytona 500, and I know some of the other race teams have announced that they will run some races here and there. Obviously, I know JTG is going to run their open car full time this year, but besides our program and the 66, I think everybody else is going to be kind of picking and choosing which races that they want to run. But with that being said, the prize purse has dropped and cut from the open teams, which that's made things more challenging now. For teams that have sponsorship money that really fund their program, it's probably not a big of a deal for those guys, but for us that we rely on the prize purse to fund our racing program, it's going to make things a lot more challenging. So, we have a road course car prepared for next week at Daytona and the road course, or the following week, I should say, along with our Miami car all the way out to the Vegas and Phoenix swing. But we're going to really evaluate our program and whether we can continue to do it or not. We're going to try to look at our costs and try to pick up some sponsorship. And but with that being said, that really this prize purse is what funds our race team as far as this program goes. And we're going to see if we can make it work. And if we can't, then we may drop back and punt.
What happens on races for open teams, just so I'm clear on that, where you got 4 open spots and there's 6 teams or 7 teams or whatever want it, but there's no qualifying? What happens then?
Sure. It's pretty simple. They just revert back to where those teams are in points. So essentially there's 6 cars going for 4 spots. NASCAR will take the best 4 teams of those 6 teams in points. So we have our own, so to speak, point battle that we will have to fight as well. And I'll give you an example. If the Daytona 500 qualifying were to get rained out, I'm sure they would line us up by points, where we are the second ranked open team from 2020 points. So we have that kind of in our back pocket as well. But ultimately, they revert back to points.
So it's going to be very difficult if you miss a race and then they revert to 2021 points then, right? I mean, things could could kind of snowball on an open team in a hurry.
Oh yeah. Yeah, things could definitely snowball if enough teams show up where we can essentially get exiled out from not having enough points, and that we could find ourselves in that boat as well. So the second two races of the year, the road course and Miami, we do find ourselves in a locked-in spot, being one of the first two cars in the points. So we guarantee those two races as well. So we have a shot to really start building some points if for some reason we can't make this 500. But our goal is to, go into this race, make this race along with the next two, and really build a good platform to start the year off.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks
Absolutely.
for clearing that up for me. Thank you.
Our next question will come from Alex Andreev. Go ahead with your question, Alex.
Hey, Timmy, this is actually kind of a follow-up on Mark's question, but you mentioned the prize purse, and I'm curious if there's going to be one for the Pro Invitational this year, if you know about, and if that makes it kind of more important for you guys to try to enter that.
I'm not exactly sure. I haven't seen the details. I don't want to say yes or no. I know last year that there wasn't. It was just the drivers and the teams really wanting to put on a good show for all the fans that were in need of some entertainment. So I know a lot of people have lobbied for some purses, but the answer to that question, I'm not personally sure.
Got it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Our next question will come from Stephen Toronto. Go ahead with your question, Stephen.
Timmy, one thing I forgot to ask, but is of the utmost importance. Do you have any Bojangles runs planned for when you get to Daytona Beach this
I'm actually, who knows? I'm trying to lose a little bit of weight, but if I need some food in my belly, who knows? I enjoy that Bojangles truck that's in the infield. I don't know if it'll be there this year with the with the pandemic going on. If it is, I'm looking forward to it. But if not, then it's probably better for my health.
Gotcha. Thanks again, Timmy.
Absolutely.
Our next question will come from Marty Sikala. Go ahead with your question, Marty.
Thanks, Matt. Timmy, you were just talking about, Mark, about the prize purse. The more up it goes, obviously, the more money you win when you gain spots. The big thing that's going to happen in the race, obviously, the big one's the matter of when, then the if, and that seems like the only way that these small teams, besides like you and Wicker Racing, can possibly get like a top 10, top 15 finish. So I'll ask you this. When that big one occurs, where do you want to be? Do you want to be in front of it, or do you want to be like a straightaway back or tail end of the pack to hopefully miss and gain a few more spots?
Yeah, I don't think there's any real answer to that. I don't personally think that that's the only way teams like MBM or other small teams can get good finishes. Last year's Daytona 500, we qualified for the race. I think we started in the 30s, and within the first 15, 20 laps, we were running in the top 10. We were actually in the top 10 when the rain delay happened last year. I think small teams can prepare great race cars that can finish top 10, no problem. But I think what you typically see from especially small teams is the lack of ability to essentially wreck these cars. So most of these small teams do try to protect their race car so they can ultimately use this race car at the three other super speedways that we go to. And that's why typically, you don't see these small teams wrecking too much. You see them really preserving their race car because ultimately they need that race car later on. So for us, it's not a worry. We're going to do whatever it takes to make this race, and we're going to be at the front. I don't think there's really any better way to say how you're going to miss this wreck. I've seen them wreck in the back. I've seen them wreck in the front. I think ultimately you just try to look who you're racing around, and if you see some erratic driving by some of your competitors, you try to stay away from those guys.
Great. Thanks, Timmy. Good luck.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, Timmy, thanks a lot for joining us today, and good luck, and look forward to seeing you in Daytona. Take care now.
I do appreciate it. Thank you.